Welcome, everyone, to an autumn day here on the campus of Notre Dame. Our students have just returned from fall break. They're rested for the most part and ready to kind of get back at their studies. We miss them for that week, and it's great to see them walking the pathways of campus and the places again abuzz. It is feeling like a full autumnal day. Here, we had kind of peak colors for the UNLV game this past weekend, and now the leaves are coming down in droves. It rained yesterday. The winds have been pretty high. Today is mostly gloomy and in the 40s, and with a high, I think, of 50 degrees. And leaves are colorful leaves all over the campus. And we're getting ready for the next 9 months of winter. That's a little bit of an exaggeration. Okay, next few months of winter. This is a time that puts undue stress on my marriage, as I married a woman, many of you know, Carmen from Brazil, and this is a tough time maritally because I seem to be responsible for South Bend climate at this time. But all is going well on campus. We had a wonderful alum come back to visit us last night, and I was attended his lecture. Tom Brown, famous fashion designer, 1988 Notre Dame grad, who was an accounting major undergrad and was a swimmer here at Notre Dame, who's gone on to become one of the iconic fashion designers in this country. And he's designed inaugural addresses for first ladies. He's adorned some of the most famous celebrities and athletes of our day. And if I didn't already feel a fashion deficit, I certainly did last night. And today, this morning, there's a group of about 50 students that are playing a touch football game, all dressed in Tom Brown clothing, with a major photo shoot in the South Quad, just in front of the Rockne Center. So it's always interesting around here. It's an eclectic place. There's always new things going on, and you get stretched to learn and grow from all of the different talents. And I'm certainly very proud of Tom as an alum and the impact that he's had on the fashion industry. So we're going to stay today in this theme of the arts. And it's my distinct pleasure now to introduce Ted Barron. He came to Notre Dame in 2010. He was in the kind of associate director position of the DeBartolo Performing Arts Center. In addition to overseeing operations, he oversaw the cinema program. He came to us from Harvard, where he had performed a similar function with film and taught film at Harvard as well. And then in 2016, he was promoted to be the executive director of the DeBartolo Performing Arts Center and the Judd and Mary Lou Leighton director of the Performing Arts. He's a good friend. He is a wonderful leader here at Notre Dame. He teaches courses as well on global cinema, on documentary film, on German film, and avant-garde film. And he's received all kinds of honors, including from the Boston Society of Film Critics. So, Ted, welcome. Thanks for taking time to join us and our viewers today. And we all look forward to getting to know you a little bit better.
Thanks, Lou. How do I measure up to Tom Brown in terms of, wardrobe?
No, you're not quite as snappy as I would expect, to see here, and I would expect a gray suit, since that's kind of like, but
it's a little cold for the shorts.
It's a little cold for the shorts. And I would just say that his clothing line is not at my price point. That's the thing. It's so it was again out of my comfort zone, but it was it was a passionate and interesting presentation.
Great that he's here.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about, where did it all begin for you, Ted? Where did you find kind of a passion for film and the performing arts?
Sure. So, I've always been interested in live theater. As a young person, in kind of my early days in elementary school and middle school. I did I acted in school plays and things like that. But I sort of lost that interest as I became a teenager, or kind of moved away from it a bit, and started to become really interested in film relative to the performing arts. Just thinking about the sort of creative possibilities of film. And when I went to college, I was an English major in college, but I sought out opportunities to take film courses. Where I studied, they didn't have a formal film studies program, but there were a lot of different courses that were being offered in different areas of film. And I was particularly interested in documentary film and American independent film, which during my college years in late 80s, early 90s was a really exciting time to kind of explore American independent film. And that was something where, I started to become really interested in how films get made and actually how films get seen. And so when I started to seek out professional opportunities, originally I was interested in kind of film distribution, how films go from kind of the production side of things to eventually make it to theaters where people can experience films. And as I sort of started to explore those options, I was realizing that, my interest in film was actually kind of more academic. So I made the decision to go to grad school, where I studied film first at Boston University, where I was in a master's program, and then I moved on to a doctoral program at University of California, Irvine. And through those programs, I continued to explore these interests, particularly in documentary film and in American independent film, which has really actually informed a lot of the professional work that I've done specifically in that area.
Yeah. Now you are also, in addition to all of this, you're a Notre Dame parent.
I am. Yes. Yeah. Thank you for noticing.
So tell us a little bit about Lucy. And what year is she in, and what is she studying?
She's a senior this year. So my daughter's she's a senior, and she's majoring, probably not surprisingly, in film, television, and theater, although she's taken more to the theater side of things. She was originally really interested in kind of acting and singing. And what's been great is how her interests have kind of evolved over the last 4 years. I would say right now she's kind of more on the writing, directing, kind of producing side of things. And I think that wouldn't have been possible if it wasn't for, a place like Notre Dame. If she was in a conservatory program, she'd be, really kind of laser focused on that one specific set of skills. Right. But here, because she's been opened up to so many different experiences through, a liberal arts education, she's really been able to explore that. And in particular, the structure of the film, television, and theater major, which encourages students to take, if you're a theater concentrator, you're encouraged to take courses in film and television as well. She's also a minor in musical theater, so that's giving her a lot of creative outlets. And then student groups that she's involved with. She's the artistic director for Pasquarella East Musical Company this year. She works with she's been involved with the humor artists, the improv comedy group since she started here. So there's just so many great outlets for students in terms of the arts. I've always been sort of, aware of this in kind of in theory, as someone who works here, but to actually see it through the lens of, my own child is actually really exciting and rewarding.
That's fantastic. So that does give a whole new perspective to you as not just a university administrator in the arts, but also as a parent. So tell us, I think this is one of the kind of hidden secrets at Notre Dame. I feel like we are experiencing at Notre Dame a renaissance of the arts.
Yeah.
We have more and more intelligent students that are demanding more in the area of arts education and arts events that they can participate in one form or another. Whether it's the visual arts, the performing arts, whatever it is, they're asking for more. And tell us a little bit about the film, television, and theater major. My understanding is it just keeps getting stronger and stronger, and we're putting more and more professionals out into the different industries.
Yeah, I mean, I think the growth of the major has been really really remarkable over the last several years, and part of that is because I think we are becoming increasingly media savvy as individuals, and our young people in particular are growing up, who've grown up with all kinds of media. They're seeing film, television, and theater as a practical path. I think historically this was seen as an area where maybe people have a passion for this particular area of study, but is it a way to actually build a career for yourself? And what's been really great is to see how well our graduates do who come out of this program. And I think, again, it speaks to what I was saying about with my daughter, the fact that students come out very with a much broader perspective than maybe they get in other programs that just focus on the development, the professionalization and development of a certain skill set.
Right.
It's really this whole person that comes out of these programs that we have here. Really, they're making a difference, and we're seeing students, with major industry jobs. I also think, along with FTT is the introduction of the musical theater minor, which is a joint effort between film, television, and theater and the music department. What that's done is, as a minor, has given more students the opportunity to engage with the arts. So you can be someone who makes the commitment to be a major in, say, music or FTT, or you could be an engineering student who still wants to have those creative outlets. And so the minor provides a more reasonable way to kind of make those commitments to participate in, whether it's in productions that are happening here on campus, or other kind of workshop projects that the musical theater minor has helped to develop.
So we see more and more students. I certainly talk with them, and I'm sure you do even more so. Prospective students who are looking, should I go to this top film program or this top musical theater program, or should I go to this top broadcast, television broadcast program? Yeah. Or can I come here to Notre Dame and still do this because I love Notre Dame? In many cases, I've heard from other students that have gone to some of these top programs that their education can be very one-dimensional. They don't get to be outside of their, even though they're at a great university, they never get to take classes beyond the other few actors that they're with because it's so intensive.
Right.
How do you market and sell, and what is unique about a Notre Dame arts education?
Well, I mean, I think that, comparing to those kinds of programs that you're talking about, there's just so much focus on professionalization. And, professionalization, it's a question of, what's the value that we place on that? Of course, we want our students to be prepared to go out into the workforce with a set of skills that make them marketable and able to, to get jobs so that they can have, sustainable careers. But, they're also going to have their whole lives to be working. So, for these 4 years, which, as a parent of someone who's, on the tail end of it, they move by very quickly. Mm-hmm. What can you ultimately accomplish during that time? And I do think that there are enough creative outlets, whether it's through things that are directly managed through academic programs or student activities like the ones that I mentioned, groups like PEMCO or Humor Artists, where students can find all kinds of creative outlets. And you're also going to, I think the students are better served by engaging with a student body that comes with a diverse set of interests. Right. So not just being a film student who is with film people all the time, but film students who actually maybe, engage with students from School of Business or College of Science and have real direct opportunities to interact through the different projects.
So I remember when the DeBartolo Performing Arts Center was constructed. How many years ago was that, Ted?
So we opened in September 2004.
In 2004. So, wow, it's about 18 years, almost 18 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, if you think groundbreaking goes back, what is it, 02 or it's earlier than that.
Yeah. So it's you've been around a little less than 2 decades. I remember that it was a revolutionary build. I mean, I remember that there's 5 distinct theater venues and many other venues, or I should say venues. They're not just theater, and that that not there isn't one wire or cord that goes from one of those venues to the next to keep each one acoustically pure. Tell us a little bit more about the facility. Is it still on the cutting edge for college campuses?
I think in many ways, yes. I mean, I think there's still some great work that can be done. But in terms of, what the design of the space is, we have 5 venues, as you mentioned. We have our the Leighton Concert Hall, the Patricia George DCO Main Stage Theater, the Regis Philbin Studio Theater, the Reyes Organ and Choral Hall, and then the Browning Family Cinema. And, one of the really unique design elements that you alluded to is the fact that the acoustic design of the spaces was very specific, both in terms of the fact that each venue is constructed on a separate foundation, which really contains sound within spaces. So if you're having a performance, you can make a lot of noise within each of these venues, and it really won't spill out into the other areas of the building. It becomes very contained. But also that acoustic design was done in consult with academic interests. So if you're thinking about a theatrical, spaces that are more, for the theater side of things, like the Philbin Theater or the DCO Theater, the acoustic design of those spaces is very particular about the spoken word and amplification of the spoken word, versus the more extreme example is the organ hall, the organ and choral hall, which has a very live dynamic to it, so that the sound of the organ can really fill the space. It's a really remarkable thing to hear if you're ever here on campus. Either come through for a tour and you might hear a student who's rehearsing, or actually come out for one of the recitals that we put on our season, and it just fills the space in ways that you've never heard anything quite like it. But that was that's very careful design. Yeah. That serves both the academic interest of what's occurring within that space, and also the element of performance in this, because we are a public, we're not just an academic space, we're a public presenting space that's designed to really elevate the arts and present them in a way that you might not get in other universities.
No, this has been revolutionary for the campus and for this region, as many people come in to attend some of these big name events and other annual traditions that have emerged over the years. Tell us about some of the acts that you have been able to attract, and some of them, quite frankly, being around here, I wish that I at times were retired so that I could attend more of them and didn't have so many conflicts. But some really spectacular names and groups all over the spectrum of the performing arts.
I just had that conversation with a faculty member who retired recently, and she said how excited she was to now finally have the time to come and see everything that we have to offer. I mean, we've had great success with a variety of artists. A lot of interest in classical music. Itzhak Perlman has been through our space twice. We just recently in April hosted Yo-Yo Ma with Catherine Stott, his longtime pianist. That was a sold out performance, and a performance we had been working on for quite some time. Actually, was originally scheduled during the 2020 season, which didn't actually happen. But the fact that he was able to ultimately come through, I always hear about one of the performances that people hold in really high esteem, which was during our opening season, which was the New York Philharmonic. Kind of recognizing that the opportunity we have within this facility is to bring some of the best artists in their field to campus. We had a great series of events with Philip Glass a few years ago, which brought in a lot of connections to students in our music program and our sacred music program. We've had really what's been a really nice development since I've become executive director is we've made a pretty strong investment in Broadway performers. Students in particular have a real passion for Broadway. They're much more knowledgeable about Broadway. And this kind of kicked off in, I think it was 2016 when we brought Patti LuPone to campus. And we just had a level of response that we hadn't seen before for a vocal performer in our venue. And it was just phenomenal. But since then, we've had Kristen Chenoweth. We've been fortunate to connect with cast members from Hamilton, like Leslie Odom Jr. and Renee Elise Goldsberry. We try to kind of cover the gamut of arts, whether it's music, theater, dance companies. We recently hosted Alvin Ailey's second company, and that followed up on a performance by the main company back in 2013. So, really trying to bring the best of the arts here to this community, not only for campus, for our students, for our faculty, for our staff, but also for our region.
No, it's incredible because, Yo-Yo Ma being one of the more recent ones that you mentioned, I think April of this year, I had a conflict that night, but so wanted to go. But even for those of us who cannot make it to a sold out show like that, it just elevates the presence, the impact of bringing these world-class artists to Notre Dame and to South Bend, Indiana. How do you see this impacting the profile and recruiting faculty and students to Notre Dame?
Well, I think it kind of gives them a sense of that there's a lot to do here. I mean, especially I'm very fortunate that I will often be asked to host tours of our building, and anybody who's interested, reach out. I'm happy to show you around. I'm quite proud of the spaces that we have here. But what's always great to see is when we're talking to a prospective student who maybe is looking to study musical theater or looking to study, music, voice or piano, kind of more traditional music disciplines. And we were able to share with them, not only what the facilities are and what how students can access those spaces, but also who's coming into those spaces. They really, just enliven and recognize that, there's something really unique here on campus in terms of what they can experience. I remember one year I think it was around the time that Patti LuPone was here. We had a student come through who couldn't believe that Patti LuPone was going to be performing in our concert hall. And then our musical theater students were putting on a production of Spring Awakening that spring, and just the opportunities that student saw, someone who maybe was, kind of interested in Notre Dame, but suddenly just really sparked in terms of their level of enthusiasm for what they could do here.
And one of the differences, Ted, that you do is when you bring in a lot of these artists, you will ask them to stay a little bit longer and work with our students to engage with them, to teach them, to mentor them. Tell us a little bit more about how you do that.
Yeah. And so, kind of feeding into that is, what's our strategy in terms of how we program a season? Because it'd be really easy just to, just bring in a bunch of big names and just, get a lot of excitement around the work that we do. And what we try to do is actually anchor our season with maybe one or two of those, kind of more recognizable artists, some of the names that I already mentioned to you. But then we go on our next tier of programming that we work on. We do it really, we try to work very collaboratively with faculty. That's something that's been a real charge that I've advanced as executive director, is to recognize that, there's expertise within our campus community in terms of faculty members who have connections to specific artists. This week, we're actually hosting the Irish Theater of Chicago. They're going to be here for 3 nights of performances. And that's a company that is one of our faculty members serves as their artistic director. And she's been great because with her connections to the company, she will bring current students in to actually work on the production and tech roles, kind of behind the scenes. She also will recruit alumni. The last time they were here, we had 2 different alumni, Notre Dame alumni, who served as set decorators and costumers for the show. So making those, kind of meaningful connections with the current students and with recent graduates to help them kind of build, continue to build professional opportunities. But what we also try to do is, when there's time available for an artist, is to have master classes. So when Patti LuPone was here, for example, she actually she hosted a master class with students from our musical theater minor and was able to kind of give them feedback on, different elements of performance. Really, it's funny because Patti LuPone has a very particular kind of public profile,
Yeah.
has a bit of, perceived as having a bit of an edge to her. But she was incredibly warm and receptive to these students. We saw this whole other side to her. And I think it was partly because we were seeing how she was becoming invigorated by this experience of working with the students. And the students they were overwhelmed. I mean, they just loved the chance to work with her.
So not everything you do is, obviously it's informed by the Academy, but some of the stuff can be lighthearted and fun. Even playful. I know that you've had recently Martin Short and Steve Martin come and perform. What are some of the fun things that you do? And there's, I think, a children's movie series, animated series that you do. What are some of the fun things you do too?
Well, we have a lot of fun here. So I guess there's a lot of different ways.
You couldn't single it out as fun. It's all fun, but yeah.
I'm very fortunate to be in the position I am to get to do all of this. But no, I think in terms of the artists that we bring in, yes, the Academy plays a key role. But even, with the interest of the Academy, those don't necessarily have to be, so serious that they can't be enjoyable. We have some really great, collaborations with faculty from across the university. But this, for example, this season we've got Jane Lynch, who people know from the TV show Glee and many other films. She's performing a Christmas concert. One of the performers in the show is Kate Flannery, who most people know she played the role of Meredith on the TV show The Office. They're doing a Christmas show it'll have Christmas songs, but it'll have a lot of comedy, really kind of lighthearted, celebratory kind of experience, for the holiday season as it's intended. On the cinema side, we do try to recognize that the cinema is a space where, there's a lot of different outlets for people. You mentioned our family series, which plays really well with our faculty and staff who are often looking for entertainment for their families. So it's a Sunday afternoon series. We actually set the ticket prices for that series at $1 to make it accessible, not just for folks on campus, but really to our greater community. And so it's a series that's actually done really well for us this year. The cinemas faced some challenges during the COVID years because of people wanting to getting more comfortable with watching film at home. But the family series in particular has been a real bright spot where we've seen families coming out more frequently. But then also on the student side, we try to present events that are both informative and entertaining. We think about some of our late night programming that we do, which has might be horror films or comedies that students are interested in. It's a real great mix that we do at the cinema.
How do you think that the performing arts at Notre Dame, perhaps in even a unique way, help to fulfill the mission and vision of this university?
Yeah, well, the university, talks about various ways in which it makes a, kind of commitment to excellence, whether it's, excellence in leadership, excellence in education. And I think in terms of, the caliber of artists that we try to bring in, to the center reflects, these are people who are at the top of their field. In some cases, it's people who are well recognized as being at the top of their field, but in other cases, it might be people who, don't have that level of awareness. We opened up our season this year with Jessica Vosk. Jessica is a performer who she's a Broadway performer who's been in the touring production of Wicked in the role of Elphaba. And so for some real diehards within, who follow Broadway, she's very well known. But for a lot of other people, she was unfamiliar to a lot of audiences. But what was notable is, the quality of performance. We were able to get her, I think, at a stage in her career where she's kind of at the peak of her talents. Her voice was just remarkable. But I think, going deeper into the mission, we've always made a strong commitment to sacred music. We have, our organ series, which is supported by our endowment for sacred music. We work very closely with the graduate program in sacred music. One of the big highlights was this past season when one of our graduating sacred music students, Amorja Roberson, presented a concert in our concert hall as actually the closing event for our season. It was titled Bespoken, and the performance incorporated different elements of spirituality, gospel music in particular, as well as kind of various pieces that celebrated what it's like to be a Black person in America today. Right. And so realizing that we can create that opportunity for a current student who was able to pull together a show with a group of professional artists as part of that show. So we have, Amorja, who kind of organized everything and performed within the show, but inviting professional artists in the field of R&B and spoken word, as well as community members kind of coming together. We felt like that was a really high achievement in terms of recognizing and realizing the mission of the university, which is to have an impact that's local, to have an impact that's global, and to actually be informed by the university's Catholic character.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. I got to tell you, I turned 60 this year. Feel free to write to me and tell me that you can't believe how young I look for 60. But
of course, I can't believe it, Lou.
But as I get older, I can't tell you how much I feel more and more drawn to the arts.
Yeah.
Kind of like a simple kind of pedagogy, it plays its role, but the arts speak to our soul, I think, in a way that it really encompasses all five senses and touches you at the deepest level. And it's not just the performing arts, it's the visual arts, and it's the integration of the arts across the board. Can you tell us, running the DeBartolo Performing Arts Center, how do you work together with the Academy? Certainly this new gateway that we're talking about, the Arts Gateway that involves the new museum, Racklin Murphy Museum of Art, the new music building in the south end zone of the stadium, which is just a wonderful facility. And then we've got a new art and design building that will go up between the architecture building and the DPAC. How are you guys working together?
Yeah, I mean, well, I'll just say, kind of to lead into that is that, I truly believe that, Notre Dame is positioned extraordinarily well to be a major player as a university arts institution. I think there's just a great opportunity for us to we're at a transformational moment to kind of rethink the identity of the university as one in which the arts are as big a priority as all of the other priorities that are more familiar to folks, whether it's excellence in education, whether it's a commitment to faith, whether it's athletics, just thinking about the arts as a kind of a pillar of the university. And there are all of these amazing developments that have happened on campus with new buildings being constructed, new programs being launched. So the question is all of these things can happen, but how do you actually get everybody kind of on the same team and on the same message of advancing the arts? So we've been really fortunate, in particular, and this kind of started shortly before COVID, where we started to have a series of meetings with some of the deans, some of the program directors, some of the department chairs from the various arts interests on campus, to start thinking about how can we work more purposefully as a collaborative effort to advance the arts at the university. Because I think we do a lot of collaboration, but those collaborations are often more isolated. So it's a kind of a one-to-one relationship. We'll partner with, say, the music department. And you mentioned, actually, just a side note, mentioning the O'Neill Hall of Music. One of the big accomplishments that I'm really proud of is the fact that we now work regularly with music on a series of chamber music that's presented in O'Neill Hall. So even though, what we typically oversee are events that take place here at DPAC, that's actually a collaborative project where the artists are performing in O'Neill Hall, recognizing that, we don't have sole ownership of the arts on campus, that you want to extend it out into a lot of these other spaces. And with these newer spaces, the newer developments with architecture, and then, next year with the opening of Racklin Murphy, what are we going to do to formally kind of make a claim to Notre Dame as an arts institution? One of the ways that we do that is to see this physical proximity that we have between these spaces as a realization of an arts district on campus, which has now evolved into more of an arts gateway, because we want to make sure that people have a sense that, this area of the arts on campus is open to all. We want to encourage as much participation as possible, both from folks on campus, from folks in our community, and from folks coming from outside. So we've been having a series of meetings between some of our different arts leaders. We had really great momentum actually during the COVID year, believe it or not, because of the fact that it was easier to kind of get folks together to talk about issues and concerns. We're actually going to be launching a website coming after the first of the year, which is going to be now a hub for all of the different arts interests on campus. So if you're passionate about the arts, as I am, and you want to find out what's happening, you can go to this website, and now that'll be a centralized location for information about what's happening at DPAC, what's happening at the museum, what's happening through architecture, what's happening through all of these different areas of interest, and hopefully becomes a better pathway to kind of work together and build on those interests.
That's fantastic. I have just two final questions here, Ted. What are you most excited about going forward?
Do I have to pick one? Can I
No,
say
you can throw out a few.
Well, I mean, the Arts Gateway, what's happening with this Arts Gateway is, that's really driving a lot of the work that I do. I really thrive off of the opportunity to collaborate. I don't like to do this on my own. I'm not someone who likes to be stuck in my office and, kind of working on things by myself. So I really enjoy the opportunity to work with faculty, to work with students. An area that we're starting to make some really interesting progress is in the realm of streaming content. So one of the things that we did during the COVID year was to launch a campaign to recognize all of the work that was being produced virtually. So you had students performing music recitals or doing thesis readings for for the theater side of things. Those had to be done in isolation because of COVID. So we did our best to try to organize all of those efforts and mount a digital campaign to promote and give people access. And what we saw was a really great response, because during the COVID year, you had family and friends of those students who couldn't come to campus, and now they had a new way to access that. So that's really pushed us to make more of an effort to advance the idea that we could stream performances, events, other activities from the center. So we're looking to kind of keep that pushing forward. But we also have taken some time to think about, what are we doing? As much as we want to build the reputation of Notre Dame in the arts on a global scale, we want to think about our local impact. So we've been looking really closely at diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives and how we can better serve our community. The South Bend community is a very diverse place. And have we been doing our best work to make sure that the center in particular is a place where people, regardless of where they come from, regardless of where they went to school or didn't go to school, that they feel a sense of belonging. That's something we feel really strongly about.
That's terrific. What are your needs? Final question, moving forward, and any parting thoughts that you'd like to leave us with?
Yeah, so I mean, we're heading into, you mentioned, the history of the center, and we're going to be coming up on our 20th anniversary in fall of 2024. So we're starting to look at ways in which we could celebrate that season. So, when I talked about the scope of our programming, I mentioned that we typically try to anchor our season with one or two big name artists. We'd like to kind of take that to a new level. We currently have a funding proposal for our presenting series. It's a naming opportunity. It would be wonderful to get that funded so we could announce that during that anniversary season, which would be a season, kind of populated by, some of the greatest hits of the last 20 years, to bring back some of those major artists, and to more importantly, kind of connect with audiences and folks who've just been supportive to us over the years. So we see a really great opportunity there. but as well, just as we move into this new realm of streaming content and other interests, there's lots of new opportunities and ways that we're going to be rethinking the arts as we move forward.
That's fantastic. Well, I know that I've heard the feedback that many of these visiting artists who perform at some of the greatest venues all over the world come here and rave about not only our facilities, but the hospitality and the warmth which you and your team take care of everybody. And that makes them want to come back, and it spreads the word. So kudos to you and your team. I also know the vision is to make it so that all of our students, whatever they're majoring in, that they get to experience the arts, not just as passive observers, but get to participate in the making of art in one form or another as part of their college experience. And I can't imagine Notre Dame today and Notre Dame going forward without the DeBartolo Performing Arts Center, and then this whole Arts Council, this collaborative initiative and the Arts Gateway that is emerging going forward. So huge kudos to you, Ted, and your team and the others working in the arts, and heartfelt thanks for your leadership, for your guidance, for your vision, for your indefatigable efforts each and every day to bring this all together. We're blessed to have you at Notre Dame. I encourage folks to reach out to Ted before you make a trip back to campus, perhaps for a sporting event or junior parents weekend or whatever it might be. Check things out here at Notre Dame. This is a treasure that is often too hidden to many folks that come back to campus, and you can see some world-class art. And personally, the student productions are phenomenal.
We didn't even get to those. I know there's so much.
Yeah, we didn't even get to that. I mean, there's the quality of the student, plays that are written and the performances that are done are just extraordinary. So thank you again, Ted.
Thank you, Lou. We're so grateful for the support you give us every day, and really proud to do the work that we do.
Fantastic. As we always do, please join us as we conclude our program with a prayer to Our Lady. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Amen.
Thanks again, Ted. God bless all of you, and go Irish.
Thank you, Lou. Go Irish.